She didn't need a text to know you were still holding on. She could feel it in the silence. Because silence doesn't hide weakness, it reveals it. Most men think they're being strong by saying nothing, but energy doesn't go quiet when your mouth does. It speaks louder. And if the story you carry is still, "I wasn't enough," then even your silence is soaked in scarcity, and she can feel every drop. This is where most men get it wrong. They think going silent is a strategy to win her back, but it's not about how loud you are. It's about what your silence is made of. In this video, I'll show you the shift she never sees coming. When you stop waiting, stop proving, stop performing, and start living from the center of your worth. This isn't game, this is gravity. And when you tap into it, your silence doesn't chase, it commands. She won't understand why she's thinking about you again, but she will. So if you're ready to change what your silence is saying and become the man who no longer hopes to be chosen, because he's already chosen himself, start this journey now. Like this video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and drop a comment. 1. If you've felt that shift beginning in you. 2. If you know you're still working toward it. Because what's about to unfold might flip everything you believed about who had the power. Let's begin. 1. She senses the shift. You might think silence is enough, that by going quiet, you're protecting your dignity, guarding your value, or showing her you're not chasing. But silence on its own isn't clarity. It's just an empty shell. What truly speaks isn't the silence itself. It's the energy beneath it. And if the story you're telling yourself is still, "She's gone, so I must not be enough," then no matter how still you are on the outside, that belief will leak into everything. She can feel it. Women are intuitive that way. They may not have the words to describe it, but they sense it when your silence is full of longing, when it's heavy with unspoken doubt, when you're not really letting go. You're just waiting quietly, hoping she turns around. That's not strength. That's still need, and it shows. Every action you take or don't take is broadcasting who you believe you are. If you walk around carrying shame, she feels it in the way you hesitate to look forward. If you're doubting your worth, she hears it in your tone when you talk to others, even if she's not in the room. If your silence is built on fear, fear that no one will love you like she did, fear that you'll never matter that deeply again, then your silence doesn't pull her in. It warns her off. But something begins to shift when you stop trying to change her mind and start challenging your own. When you stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start asking, "Why did I believe I wasn't enough to begin with?" That's where real transformation begins, not in the waiting, not in the revenge, but in the quiet rewiring of who you believe you are. The moment you begin rewriting that belief from "I wasn't enough" to "I'm already whole," your entire presence starts to evolve. It shows up in how you stand, in how you carry yourself, in how you speak with others, not with ego, but with calm certainty. You don't have to fake confidence anymore. You begin to live it. Not for her, not to prove a point, but because you're finally seeing that your value never left when she did. That shift doesn't go unnoticed. She senses it, even if she can't explain it. Because suddenly, you're not chasing in silence anymore. You're not emotionally frozen in place. You've stopped waiting to be seen, and you've started showing up for yourself. That kind of inner shift disrupts everything she assumed about you. She thought you'd be stuck. She thought the breakup broke you. But what she sees now is someone who's still standing, not in defiance, but in truth. You don't need to send her a message, because you are the message. And the message she's receiving now is simple, unspoken, and undeniable. I've let go, and I'm still whole. That's what stirs her curiosity. That's what makes her rethink her assumptions. Not because you said something clever, but because you became someone stronger. Letting go doesn't always look like walking away. Sometimes it looks like standing still, but with new weight in your step. Sometimes it's the way you no longer flinch at the memory of her name. Sometimes it's how you look in the mirror and no longer see the version of yourself who needed her to feel complete. And here's the paradox. When she senses that shift, when the energy of need is gone and the presence of peace has taken its place, she starts to feel the absence differently. It's no longer about whether you'll come back. It's about the realization that maybe you're no longer reachable in the way you once were, that she's no longer the center of your emotional world, that the man who once needed her to validate his worth has become the man who validates himself. That's when she feels the true loss, not just of the relationship, but of the role she played in your life. And sometimes that's what draws her back. But by then, something in you has changed so deeply that you're not sitting at the edge of hope anymore. You're anchored, you're clear, you're whole. And whether she comes back or not, that shift was never about her. It was always about you, about remembering who you were before the doubt, about reclaiming the part of you that was never missing, just waiting to be seen again. That's what she senses. That's what changes everything. 2. She assumed you'd stay frozen. She thought she paused you, like a scene in a movie she could come back to when the silence got too loud. In her mind, leaving wasn't permanent. It was a power play, a delay, a bet that you'd wait in emotional suspension, quietly orbiting her absence, holding your breath until she decided to press play again. Because that's what most men do. They don't truly let go. They disappear, but they don't evolve. They stay silent, but not still, frozen, but not free. They confuse stillness with strength, when in reality, they're just waiting, hoping she'll remember, hoping she'll regret, hoping she'll return. But not you. You didn't pause. You progressed. You didn't stay frozen in the last chapter. You started writing a new one. You stopped replaying old scenes in your mind and started asking a deeper question. Why did I place my worth in her hands to begin with? That single question became the turning point. It wasn't about proving her wrong. It was about proving to yourself that you were never broken in the first place. You didn't rebel. You refined. You didn't lash out. You leveled up. You didn't chase her. You challenged yourself to rise beyond the version of you she thought she knew. She gave you a role to play, a script she assumed you'd follow, the quiet one, the patient one, the man on standby. But you outgrew that role. You broke the fourth wall. You stepped out of the story she was trying to control. And now, when she finally looks back, expecting to find the man she left waiting, you're no longer there. Not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. And that's what rattles her most. She thought she had time. She thought your love would stay paused for her convenience. But time didn't freeze when she walked away. Time moved on, and so did you. 3. She feels the distance differently. Now, at first the silence made her feel powerful. She mistook it for a move in the game, a predictable strategy. To her, your stillness wasn't strength, it was hesitation, a pause before the next chase, a man gathering the courage to beg again. And that illusion gave her control, or so she thought. But silence, when held with intention, begins to shift. It stops being a tactic and becomes a reflection, and over time that reflection stops flattering her. Because the man she assumed was waiting, he's not there anymore. Now, when she looks into the mirror your silence holds up to her, she doesn't see the familiar shape of a man still hoping. She sees someone she misjudged, someone she expected to stay small, someone she expected to seek validation through attention, through posts, through presence, but you stopped broadcasting pain. You stopped trying to be seen. You stopped making yourself smaller just to remain within her reach. And that changes the temperature of the distance. What once felt like a tether, a quiet line connecting you to her, has vanished. There's no pull, no tension, no invisible thread, just space. And not the kind that says, "I miss you," the kind that says, "You don't have access anymore." This is the kind of absence that rattles her, not because it was loud, but because it was complete. You didn't disappear in anger. You didn't send a final message full of emotion. You just stopped shrinking, and your absence stopped signaling hope. She may not text today, she may not reach out tomorrow, but she'll start checking, quietly, indirectly. A scroll, a glance, a profile view. Not because you asked for it, but because the stillness she once underestimated has started to echo with finality. That's the kind of silence she never saw coming, the kind that doesn't ask for her attention. It takes it, and in that emptiness, a new truth sinks in. He's really gone. 4. You started walking through the fire. Most men think letting go of her is the hardest part. It's not. The real weight, the real war, is letting go of the version of yourself who thought you wouldn't make it without her. That version of you, he held on not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of never feeling chosen again. Fear that maybe, just maybe, she was your only shot at being seen. That was the man who silenced his truth to keep her attention, who ignored red flags because the fantasy felt safer than the truth, who tried harder every time she pulled away, thinking effort could fix what authenticity never built. But something in you changed. You didn't just grieve the loss, you met the man who kept tolerating it. You stared into his eyes, saw the cracks in his beliefs, and you walked him straight into the fire, not to burn him, but to release him. Because healing isn't about adding new layers, it's about shedding the ones that never belonged. Letting go was never about pretending you didn't care. It was about no longer negotiating your identity just to be kept. It was about finally understanding that your worth isn't decided by who stays, but by how deeply you stay true to yourself. You stopped chasing love and started chasing alignment. And when she comes back, when her curiosity finally outweighs her pride, she won't recognize what she finds. Because the man she left, the one who waited, who bent, who lost himself in her validation, no longer exists. She doesn't return to familiarity. She walks into something unknown, unfamiliar, unshakable. You've become a man she never truly met. And that unfamiliarity, that's what pulls her in. Not because you needed her back, but because you no longer need anything outside of you to feel whole. 5. You became the calm she never knew she needed. There's something undeniably haunting about a man who no longer flinches, a man who doesn't react, who no longer rushes to defend, to explain, or to prove. And she can feel it, even in the silence, especially in the silence. She expected something else from you, a slip-up, a response, a sign that you were still emotionally tethered to her presence or haunted by her absence. She thought she could still trigger you, even from a distance. But instead of reaction, she found stillness, not silence coated in pain, but a calm built from clarity. You stopped moving out of emotion. You started moving from center. You no longer posted to be seen. You no longer replied to be remembered. You no longer walked through your days wondering how to get her attention again. Because somewhere in that stillness, you realized, the version of you who needed her was never the full you. He was the one molded by expectation, conditioned to please, trained to chase. Now you lead with restraint, not as a game, but as a new baseline. A man who carries peace doesn't chase chaos to feel alive. And when she looks back, when she compares that quiet steadiness you embody to the noise she's surrounded by, something inside her begins to question what she let go of. You became the emotional anchor she didn't know she was missing, the kind of presence that doesn't demand space. It earns it by simply being whole. And now, every loud connection she turns to feels like static. Every flirtation, every high, every temporary spark, none of it calms her nervous system like you once did, like you still could, if you chose to. She left searching for something more exciting, more validating, more reactive, but now she sees it. The very thing she left behind is the thing she craves in the quiet moments. That calm, that composure, that unshakable center. You didn't become it for her, but it's exactly why she'll come back. 6. You don't need her anymore. It always begins the same way. The message she swore she'd never send. A casual hey, a like on a photo she used to scroll past, a song added to a playlist you once shared. She's not asking outright, she's testing the water, but what she's really searching for is confirmation that you're still the man who once needed her. She's looking for the old version of you, the one who over-explained every silence, who rushed to fill the space with apologies, who bent over backwards to prove his worth. The man who mistook her attention for validation. The man who couldn't breathe without knowing where he stood in her mind. But that man is gone. You don't need her approval to feel grounded. You don't need to be understood to feel at peace. You don't even need to be chosen, because you already chose yourself. So when you respond, you do so without performance. When you listen, it's not to decode her intentions, it's because you've mastered your own. When you speak, it's not to win her back, it's to honor your truth. And what stuns her isn't the silence you broke, it's the energy you carry now. You're not pulling her closer, you're not pushing her away, you're just steady, neutral, free, not cold, not cruel, just no longer seeking something from her she never had the capacity to give. That unsettles her more than anything, because the message she thought would reignite the flame now lands in a man who no longer burns for the past. She expected revival, but what she finds instead is revelation, and in that revelation, a quiet truth begins to settle in her chest, one that says more than any words ever could. He's really moved on, and he never looked back. 7. You're not a chapter, you're the closing line. She returns thinking it's a new beginning, believing the past can be rewritten, as if time hasn't moved, as if you haven't changed. She carries in her hands the words you once begged to hear. I was wrong. I miss you. Let's try again. But what she doesn't realize is that the man who longed for that chapter to reopen no longer lives in its pages. You're not standing in the same emotional room she left. You've outgrown it. The memories haven't vanished, but they no longer define you. You've stopped measuring your worth by how tightly she held on, or how quickly she let go. Because the deeper shift wasn't in how she returned, it was in how you stayed standing when everything else fell apart. Now, when she speaks, you don't flinch, not out of pride, but because you've found peace in choosing yourself. The desperation is gone, the ache is quiet. You listen, not with the hunger of a man waiting to be rescued, but with the steadiness of someone who already saved himself. And in that stillness, something changes in her eyes. She sees what she didn't see before, not because you became louder, but because your silence finally has depth. You're not asking, will she stay? You're asking, does this belong in the life I'm building now? That's not indifference, that's alignment. And alignment is something most people only find after they've let go of needing closure. She thought she could return to something familiar, but instead she walks into something final. She hoped to continue a story, but now she sees it. You're not a chapter waiting to be reopened. You're the closing line. And this time it's not her decision to turn the page, it's yours. Let me talk to you man to man, like someone who's seen this story unfold more times than you'd believe. The moment you go silent, you think that's enough, that if you stop reaching out, she'll feel your absence and everything will shift. But here's the truth. Silence without internal clarity is empty. It's not your words she responds to, it's the belief behind your silence. If deep down you're still telling yourself, "She left because I wasn't enough," then even your stillness is soaked in need. And women, especially the one you lost, can feel that. They won't always explain it, but they'll pull away harder when your energy whispers, "I'm still hoping." That's not power, that's passive waiting, and it leaks into your posture, your eyes, your tone, whether she's in the room or not. But here's where everything changes. The moment you stop trying to rewrite her opinion of you and start rewriting your own. When you shift the question from, "What did I do wrong?" to, "Why did I think I had to earn love in the first place?" That's when silence becomes strength, because it's no longer empty, it's full of presence. Your energy doesn't chase, it holds. Your silence doesn't ask, it declares, not in pride, but in peace. That's the shift she feels. That's what she can't explain. Because now you're not the man waiting at the edge of her attention. You're the man who's already anchored in his own worth. And whether she comes back or not becomes irrelevant, because you've already come back to yourself. That's the moment she starts to miss you, and that's the moment you no longer need her to. You didn't just stay silent. You became the kind of man who no longer needs words to be understood. That's power. That's presence. If this message hit home, like the video, subscribe to Stoic Station and drop a comment. I've shifted and I'm not turning back. But don't stop here. Your evolution, it's still unfolding. Tap the next video on your screen and keep walking forward toward the man you were always meant to be. One choice, one step, one moment at a time. Keep going. You're not done yet.